Thank you very much for having me today. I always wondered what y'all did here every Friday. Eat lasagna. Good, sounds good. Thanks for the intro. I wish you had left the show choir part out. Don't sing and dance as much anymore. Yeah, that was a good intro. Up to that point, I don't really know what to talk about. I'm gonna do my best, and then at the end, I will open the floor for some questions if anybody has any. And it's always good to be in Kingsport. Drew a lot of support and a lot of experience from learning to play music here, and the people in my church and schools and the community coming to see me play. And from the time I was little, about 3 years old, we took a trip to the Grand Ole Opry, and that was what I wanted to do ever since then. So been working on it for 30 years, and I still don't know what I'm doing. We always joke that the music business is like a moving target in the dark you're trying to hit with your arm tied behind your back, and that's on good days. But it's been a wonderful experience and journey. I started in college. I started out at MTSU because I wanted to be close to Nashville, wanted to be close to the action. Must be present to win. And people have asked me before. Have told me they have relatives that live in their hometowns that they're a great musician. Like, cool, when are they moving to Nashville? And a lot of them don't have the answer for that. And if you have anybody in your family that wants to make it in the music business, please encourage them to do something else. I'm just serious. But you got to be present to win, or in any kind of music city, or whether that's New York, LA, or if it's country music, Nashville. But I started singing when I was a kid, and I always just loved country music. It just something drew me in, and I knew when I graduated high school and figured out my football career was going nowhere, that I would go give it a shot in Nashville. And I started out kind of not knowing what to do at all. I knew I wanted to play, I knew I wanted to sing, I knew I wanted it, and that's all I knew. So you start asking questions and you meet people. I met a guy named Steve Leslie, who's a songwriter. He's written hit songs for Daryl Worley, Mark Chestnut, Ricky Skaggs, a bunch of other people you've probably heard of, and he's a Grammy Award-winning songwriter whose wife is actually from here in Kingsport. And he was here for a backstage at one of the Fun Fest concerts, and Dad was working security, so I snuck back there. And I got to speak with Steve, and he gave me all the advice. And if you're ever in Nashville, look me up. So I was just pesky enough to do that. And he was like, "Oh, you were serious?" So I'm like, "I'm here. You said so. To be careful what you say." And he gave me a lot of great advice to get started about how to write and what to look for in a song and what to want it to be. And I moved to Nashville to be a singer. That's what I wanted to do more than anything. I wanted to be the guy on stage, the star, get all the attention. I still like attention, and this is going great. So appreciate you guys listening. But I moved there, and for 7-8 years, really pursued being an artist. A lot of the contacts I made at Belmont ended up serving me well. One of my good friends became my business manager. Several of the guys I lived with and went to school with ended up being in my band. They were all great musicians, and made some lifelong friendships doing it that way. And after college, started to get out and tour and put a band together and play fairs, festivals, fraternity and sorority parties all over the Southeast. A lot of bars, and I learned a lot. And I learned how to sleep in a van on a bench seat while moving, and I go to the chiropractor every 2 weeks because of that. And I think, or something else, I can't think of what it might be, but that started lighting a fire in me. I was going to outwork anybody that wanted to do it. There were people that I felt like just sat around. I was like, well, I'm going to go play. If I want to play, I'm going to go play. I'm going to go do that. And with help and support from a lot of friends and family, I was able to do that. And I loved those years. But sometime, I guess it was 15 or 16, 2015 or 16, I decided to take a break. I'd been out on the road for a long time. There was nothing really going on. I just made an album, and nothing had really happened. And I was tired. And I decided to stop and take a break for my mental health and well-being. And my company that I was writing for at the time asked me if I'd be willing. Like, this is perfect. I'll take a year off of traveling. because it's hard. And it's hard to eat good on the road. It's hard to sleep good when you're budgeting and you're dragging 4 people with you everywhere you go. It's hard to, it's a hard life, and but it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of hard work and weird hours and that kind of thing. But I decided to take a break, and it was what I needed to do. And during that time, I found out how much I love songwriting, and I love the craft. I love digging into it. I love the challenge. It's like working a puzzle. That's what I always say, and I love puzzles. And every once in a while you finish one, and sometimes you're missing that one little piece that your cat ate, and and everybody's like, "That's really good if it just had that one piece." And the other thing that being on the road and pursuing the artist career taught me is you hear no a lot. You got to get used to that, and you hear no enough, it beats you down, and it will almost stop you. And a few times it almost did. I was like, well, I can go do anything else. I could go, work at McDonald's and not hear no. You do the fries wrong or something. But it was tough. I heard no a lot when it came to my artist career, and it was starting to weigh on me. But so that was part of the reason I took a break, and I just fell in love with songwriting. It spoke to me in a way that all the attention, all the extra stuff you had to do, the networking, Nashville's a very political town as far as the music business go. And I found that out over a long period of time, and it's all who you hear that, and you're like, oh, well, if you're good, if you're really good at what you do, you can make it through. Not always true. And in this day and time, if you can't blow up on Instagram or TikTok or go viral, they don't really have an interest in you either, which is unfortunate. There's so many talented writers and singers. We were talking about a couple just a minute ago, are 2 of the most talented people I know, and they should be 10 times more famous than they are. And it's just, for some reason, they're not. And they're incredible. And you wonder about that. It discourages you, and you wonder why it's not happening for you. But I knew I was happier in my rhythm of writing, 5 days a week. And a lot of people ask, well, what my schedule looks like. And I took a class at Belmont, a teacher by the name of Rita Arvin, who Career Creativity was the name of the class. It talked about how to live your life so that it fosters creativity. So you kind of, hear what you are, what you eat. Today I'm lasagna. And you are what you consume, what you watch, what you listen to, who you hang out with, the TV shows, radio shows, podcasts, whatever they are, that's contributing to who you are. So I really pared down. I'm like, okay, I listen to this because it's fun, but I listen to this because it makes me feel something. And I try to listen to more stuff that inspires me than I do stuff that's just like, well, I should listen to this because everybody else in the world is listening to it. And you do that too, just to know what's going on, keep your finger on the pulse. But in the midst of all that, you start to realize, okay, it's a very competitive business. And where do I stand the best chance of staying in it? Because I love it. I love music. I love being around it. I love being around other creative people. And it just, little God things started showing up. I started writing, wasn't doing anything, had some people interested in recording my songs. And I started to kind of go back and do the artist thing again. And those cuts all went away. Those recordings, options. I was like, wait, let me go back over here. And in 2017, I got my first cut, which is a recording by a major label artist, which was Tyler Farr. There's a song called I Should Go to Church Sometime. And it was my first charting single that ever went up on the Billboard radio charts, and it was a whopping number 53. And everybody's like, oh, it's going to be big, it's great, it's testing well, all the metrics look good. It died at 53. Of course, if you put a song about telling people to go to church out in country music in the middle of the summer when everybody's trying to barbecue and be on the lake and stuff, it's a little kind of discouraging of the good time, Just open a beer, go to church. But I'm so very proud of that song. But that started opening a lot of doors, and around that time I made a decision after a lot of thought and prayer and worry and pacing the floor and seeking advice that I need to just be a full-time songwriter. And it was so funny, right about that time I lost my publishing deal. A music publisher pays you to write songs. They advance you a draw per year, and they pay you back when you get your royalties if you get your songs recorded. And I was out of a deal. So I had all this time, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to write with anybody I don't love writing with. I'm going to write with my friends and mentors and people who have inspired me. I'm going to write the kind of songs I want to write. I like traditional country. I wrote a lot of old feeling stuff, and then until somebody said, man, nobody's, your grandpa is going to love this. And I was like, good point. So I needed to write some younger sounding stuff, and I bounced back and forth, and I like doing all of it. But it was a big transition, but it was the best decision I ever made. I miss playing. I miss being on stage. I miss having a band. But we play these Riders in the Round shows that help me scratch that itch a little bit, which is me and 2 or 3 other songwriters playing songs that we've written. And I'll play one for y'all in a minute. Sorry about that tuning there earlier, by the way. Yeah, I hit the wrong string. But I didn't say I was good. It's been a great journey, and the business changes a lot. And right now we're in a very serious kind of fight for our lives as far as streaming and royalties go. In the old days, as you were saying, it's physical product. It's records, it's CDs, it's vinyl albums. People were buying, or even downloads. People were purchasing downloads, and now everyone's streaming, and there's a flat monthly rate that's supposed to pay us songwriters, and where we're able to kind of live once we get a song recording. And these recordings are getting millions of streams if they're popular, and we're making cents. And we're at a 10.5% royalty rate right now, and part of the problem was the royalty rate was set for physical product in, I think, the 1920s. So back when sheet music was the big seller for music. If you wanted to hear music, somebody in your house better play the piano. There weren't records, and wax cylinders and stuff were prior to that. So everything was figured out and metered toward that. And they did not adjust that until 4 years ago. So it's just outdated rules. So they're trying in Washington to pay us fairly, but these big tech giants like Spotify is kind of the one that's getting the baddest or the worst rap of all. The owner of that company is worth $3.1 billion, and I had a song that streamed that I owned all of. I wrote by myself, and I owned the master recording of, and it made me $3,000. Now, it's streamed 1 million times, and a record company will make millions of dollars off of a song that did that if they own it. So songwriters are grossly underpaid, and we're fighting that in Washington. And I have some links I can send you, and you can just Google. Warner Chappell just released a thing. I'll get you the link to send it. I don't have it right off the top of my head, but it's very informative, and so that it's a very different time. But there's been. Do you have a question?
I just wanted to comment that earlier this week I heard on NPR that cassette tapes are making a comeback. We all know that vinyl is making a comeback, and they attributed it in part to artists wanting more royalties because the Spotify's were, robbing you blind. They
Right.
didn't say that, but that's
Robbing you blind. That's a great way of putting it. And it's a lot of it's the nostalgia factor of kind of that, the thing that some artists grew up with. I remember buying tapes, would save my money and go to Walmart and get one. And same thing with vinyl. It's just that experience of having something you can touch and look at and read the artwork and see who wrote the songs and play guitar on it or that kind of thing is a big part of that. But physical sales is where good money is. And it's not as big of a problem for artists because artists they own part of that master recording. And they own they own most of their touring money. They go and make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars touring a year. So to them, the songwriting royalties, unless they're a writer on it, don't really matter that much. But to us who, this is how we feed ourselves and our families, it matters a great deal. So we're fighting in Washington. There are a couple of agencies that are fighting on our behalf, the Nashville Songwriters Association Incorporated and the National Music National Music Publishers Association are fighting on our behalves, but the thing is, people like Google and Spotify and Apple, and they've got a lot more money. They've got billions to play with, and we're coming in at I think our budget for lobbying in 2018 was $4 million, and theirs was close to $1 billion, just paying lobbyists. And if you're a lobbyist, who are you going to work with? Who's show me the money kind of thing. But on a more positive note, so after the song died a horrible death at 53, I kept writing, and I was out of a deal for a year, and I found a company that really was in line with what I thought. It's run by a guy who is a producer and a songwriter himself, and he understands. His name's Frank Rogers. You may have heard of him. He's produced Brad Paisley, Josh Turner, Trace Atkins, Darius Rucker, Scotty McCreery, a bunch of others. And hero of mine, and I get a lot of good advice from him, but he also just understands the struggle of being a paid songwriter. But I've been so happy. We've had some great successes through that, but I guess my high point would be a song called Chasing After You that just went #1 in November of last year for Ryan Hurd and Mary Morris. It's a 7-year-old song. I've been in Nashville 13 years. August will be 14. It only took 7 years. One of my really good friends said, "Man, how's it feel to be an overnight success?" I said, "Man, it was a long night." But it felt that way a little bit. Now, I actually got the flu that week too, so that was super fun. Didn't get to do all the celebrating I wanted to do, but it was special to me because I met Ryan when I was in college at Belmont. He was this quiet, tall, awkward songwriter who was really good with very little schooling on it. He was just really good, just naturally good. And he always said, "I like your songs, I like your songs." I was like, "I like your songs." And that was just kind of how it started, just buddies. And I remember we wrote in 2014, my friend Jerry Flowers and I wrote Chasing After You, and I played it at a writer's round that Ryan and I were both performing at it. He goes, "I love that song. If I ever make a record, I'm going to put it on there." And I'm still trying to be a singer. I'm thinking, well, I'm going to record it. You can't have it. And he stayed on me about that. And shortly after we wrote it, Jerry plays bass guitar for Keith Urban. They were traveling, and he played it for Keith. Keith put a hold on it, which means, "Hey, don't play this for anybody else. I'm going to record this as soon as I get a chance." And I always get asked, "Do they pay you to hold it?" No, they don't, but I think they should. He held it for a year and a half, so I need to talk to Keith about that. I'm sure he could find it in his wallet to help me out. But he held it for a year and a half, and we thought, well, if he held it this long, he's surely going to record it. He didn't. And after that, I was really upset, and I got a call from my publisher at the time, said, "Well, it's okay, Tim McGraw wants to record it." I'm like, "I've gotten over the Keith thing, I've moved on, Tim McGraw it is." And he held it for 6 months for a duet record he was going to do with his wife, Faith Hill, and they didn't record it. And so at that point, we're 2 years into holds right now, and then Ryan starts calling, "Hey, what's going on with this?" I'm like, "Hey, just got off the hold for Tim McGraw. We're trying to find a home for it," but he was still just kind of awkward college kid, and I was still thinking I was going to record it. And then Billy Currington wanted to record it and held it for a long time and didn't. And I was really bummed about that. Billy's one of my favorite singers, and I was really upset about that. I was like, "Man, that would have been cool. It would have been something I didn't think would have happened." And Ryan called me. I was at a writing retreat near Chattanooga, and which is where you go write songs out of town, and it's just any good excuse to get out of town for a little bit. But Ryan called and asked if he could hold it, and he did, and he held it for 3 years. And the people called, and I'm just like, this guy's believed in it longer than anybody. Had bigger artists call and ask for the song, and I can't take it away from him because I don't think anybody loves it as much as he does. And even if nothing ever happens with it, I want him to have it. So somewhere in the midst of all that, Ryan falls in love with, and marries Mary Morris. And this song ended up kind of being like when they were dating, they would ride around and listen to it together. So it fast forwarding a little bit because I'm getting long-winded, but ended up being kind of their song. And obviously they recorded it and put it out and had kind of a tough time. And then it just took off. 7 years of waiting and yes and no a lot. Hey, this is great, but it's not what we're looking for. We hear that a lot in emails. You send anybody something, this is great, not what we're looking for. Thanks for sending. Our friends are always joking, like, hey, do you want some of this, these fries? No, thanks for sending. It's our big joke, because that's what A&R, artist and repertoire, people that work at record labels that filter these songs that are supposed to be of help to us, which is, even that is becoming outdated. But song went #1. It means a lot to me, and it kind of gave me validation. Okay, I'll keep going a little bit longer. And anytime you have a hit, all I think about is, cool, this buys me more time to stay in an industry in a town that I love, and to get to continue working with people I love and respect, and to work on the craft that I love and respect so much and have so much reverence for, and hopefully get to be a part of more success. And we have some songs hopefully coming this year that will be on some new young artists, and another duet hopefully. Everybody's doing duets now. I have no idea what that's about, but it's a lot of guesswork. It's trying to hit a moving target in the dark with your arm tied behind your back, but I enjoy it. And as we were talking about what this was going to be, I thought probably the best thing I could do, if y'all have any questions about the music business, I'll try to answer them as best I can. They keep moving stuff on me, so I try to do my best. Yes, sir.